Hello, everyone. My name is Maureen Gross. I'm the Director of Meetings and Events for NCYC. In the questions that were submitted in advance, we got some questions about when will registration open. Registration is now open. If you go to NCYC.us and click on Buy Passes, that will take you into our registration and housing system where you can buy your tickets for NCYC. You can begin now to enter names if you know exactly who's coming to the event, or even if you just want to kind of keep track, you can add them into the system now. We do ask that all names of ticket holders be entered no later than September 30th. And you'll start to get those kind of regular reminder purchasers will get regular reminders beginning this summer to start to enter that information. Scholarships are available. Again, if you go to NCYC.us and if you click on registration, it brings up a drop-down menu. And I believe the second option talks about scholarships. The deadline for application is coming up quickly. It's the end of this month, March 31st. But information is there about the types of scholarships and the scholarship application forms, etc. Another question we got was, can we register as a parish group? Yes, you can register as a parish group, a family group, a diocesan group, a school group, a scout troop. You can register kind of in many different ways. My recommendation, however, is that you do check with your diocese to see if they are planning to send a delegation. The question is, could somebody who's a senior this year, so graduating in May or June, could they attend NCYC in November? Have we made any special arrangements for those who may have missed their opportunity due to the pandemic, not participating in 2021? And the answer is no, we haven't made any special arrangements. Our approach has always been that NCYC developmentally is meant for high school students. So generally those between the ages of 14 and 18. However, it is up to the group leader to decide, or the delegation leader to decide who can attend. Some delegations will have to bring the younger siblings of, let's say the youth ministry leader, because they don't have somebody else to leave them at home with. Sometimes you might have 7th or 8th graders that participate in your youth ministry program, and you want to be able to bring them along. And then often what it is just what this question was asking. These are young people who graduated high school in the spring and then would like to participate in NCYC. The thing to remember, particularly for those young people, is that they're now adults legally. And so they must meet your safe environment requirements for adults. I am thrilled to announce the next couple of questions are about speakers. So we have confirmed our featured speakers for general sessions. They'll be joining, so it'll be Brian Butler on Friday morning, Sister Jude Andrew on Friday evening, and Val Lamar Jansen on Saturday morning. And they'll be joining our MCs, Mari Pablo and Sister Josephine Garrett. And we have 2 other spots that are still pending a response. And so when we get those names for Thursday night and confirm our celebrant for closing mass, will announce those 2, but I can at least share right now that it'll be Brian Butler, Sister Jude Andrew, and Val Lamar Jansen as our general session featured speakers. But for this time, we are expecting there'll be 3 rounds on Friday, 3 rounds on Saturday. In each round, there'll be a set of, I think we're looking at 5 to 7 breakout opportunities in each round, which means that there'll be somewhere between 15 and 21 choices that participants will have. They can go to 6 maximum. And so there should be significant choices to be made, maybe very difficult choices to be made regarding speakers and topics. For the breakout sessions, we are literally in the middle of that process. Our team has worked on this year, what we're looking at is themes with our expected or desired outcomes for participants. So I'm going to quickly pull up an example. Sorry, I was looking at other things on this list. So, for example, the theme might be living faith courageously. And so at the end of that session, we want tips for living for Christ when judged by others, for living out our faith, to be able to identify hardships teens face in this generation. And so we're kind of looking like that for each of the topics. And as I said, I think we have more than 21 themes identified and learning outcomes identified. And we're currently working with organizational members and others to match speakers to those topics. And then once we have the speaker identified, they'll give the actual title and description of the session using the information provided by our team. Will there be available rooms for region masses? We are looking at that right now. I think that we will have space. It will be on a first come, first served basis to members. There may be a cost to it because we will be setting rooms that we would not otherwise need. So right now we're working with our production company to identify the cost of setting up those rooms. And then we will send out probably next month to member ticket holders the information for reserving or requesting space to have either a region or diocesan mass. So for us, in making those assignments, because we don't have unlimited space, we would kind of look first at regions, then at dioceses, and it would be unusual for us to allocate space for a parish, for a single parish or school to do that type of gathering in the convention center. Hotel ground transportation logistics, it's just kind of a broad thing. NCYC does not provide any transportation to participants. So if you are flying in from out of town, you will need to secure your own ground transportation from the airport to your hotel, wherever that may be. And if it's downtown, really all the downtown hotels in our block are walkable to the convention center and stadium. If you're outside of downtown, then you would need to make arrangements with a local ground transportation operator for pickup and from at your hotel, deposit back downtown, and then return at the end of the day. We anticipate that we will use our tried and true bus plan, where we have identified zones around the stadium and the stadium lot. And so what we've done in the past is delegations with large numbers of buses, which usually it's 5 or more buses. We have asked them to have their buses park on the Lucas Oil parking lot and then have one bus driver take the other drivers back to the hotel to spend their day and then return to the Lucas Oil lot at the end of the evening around 8 p.m. to get back on their buses and be ready for dismissal, which is usually somewhere between 9:30 and 10 p.m. For those who only have 1 or 2 buses, we've done a drop off where each delegation is assigned by diocese to a colored zone around the stadium. You discharge passengers there each day, and then that's where your bus would return to pick up passengers each evening. If we end up with a large number of buses, we may have to do a staging area, which we have 2 potential parking lots where we have buses go, they line up, and then they caravan really around the convention center and stadium so that they end up in the right order in their zones. And that's handled by an incredible team of volunteers in Indianapolis. If you're looking for a ground transportation provider, my recommendation is to go to visitindy.com and to look there in their partner organizations. They'll have a number of different groups or ground transportation operators who can assist you depending on what your needs are. If you need a van or a big bus, I would recommend, if you are contacting a school bus company, that you are very clear about your needs, because you don't want to be behind a school pickup or drop off. I mean, that's fine for the evening, but in the morning that can cause some trouble. So just keep that in mind as you're talking to those operators. Reserve seating on the floor. So if you did not attend in 2021, one of our COVID precautions was that we did not want to create a big, for lack of a better phrase, quite honestly, mosh pit on the floor around the stage. There, obviously we were still dealing with some concerns about the transmission of COVID. So what we did was we limited those who could be on the floor to those who had seats on the floor. And we did that through the distribution of wristbands. So right now we're still looking at our seating charts, and we did it in 2021. It was really very random and very last minute. And so we are aware of this, and we are looking at how we might distribute that and whether or not we could do it in such a way that every group might get an opportunity to be on the floor. But until we know exactly how many people are attending, it's hard to make that determination. So we are looking at it, but I don't have a definitive answer on that right now. So safe environment, will masks be required? Masks would only be required if the local health department or the facility required them. So if one of those two entities said it was a requirement, then we would require participants to wear them. If they don't, then it is an individual decision. The question about permission click. So if you didn't attend in 2021, surprise, we've moved to a cloud-based liability form. And so that's why when you are entering your participant details, we have significantly reduced the amount of information we require for each participant when compared to 2019. However, in 2021, we did not require participant names. We are back to requiring participant names. We reinstituted that in 22. We didn't like not knowing people's names, being able to call people by name, which was, further challenged by masks in 21. But even with the masks gone and being able to see people's faces, we'd like to be able to see their names. So we are requiring that every ticket has a name attached to it. And then you'll see you add first name, last name. I think there's a badge name field. And then one of the fields is email address. For young people, that email address is a parent or guardian's email. For an adult participant, that's their personal email. And then what we will do is we will send out through permission click a link to the liability form where it can be read and signed digitally from a phone, from a laptop, from an iPad or tablet, but from an electronic device. In the unlikely event that you have someone who does not have access to any type of electronic device, the form can be printed and uploaded, but that is like our least attractive option when it comes to the forms, because if you do it through the system, then we can see how many have been submitted for each group to know that the number of forms submitted match the number of tickets. And my colleague Myra Carpena, who is on vacation today, will be managing that, and she will be in communication with group leaders, letting them know, where we are in receiving those forms. Okay, so safe environment. We are also still in the process of finalizing that with the Archdiocese of Indianapolis. We have proposed to them the system we used with the Archdiocese of Los Angeles, which was that the responsibility for verifying that adults participating in a group were compliant with the group's safe environment policy lies entirely with the group leader. So it's 20 years ago, this was all new. But my guess is that nobody today, I pray, nobody today does anything without verifying that the adults that are attending, chaperoning, supervising have been through at least whatever your diocese most basic safe environment, training is. By the charter, the training is required, a background check and in most places, some kind of volunteer covenant. That's what makes somebody cleared for service with young people. And so the responsibility for that will lie with the group leader. And then what will happen is when you check in at on site to get your credentials, you will sign a statement stating that, yes, all of the adults in your group are cleared for service. And I think the other one is that, you know, everyone in your group has submitted their liability waiver form. So that happens at on-site check-in. If there's any change to that, we'll let you know. But the Archdiocese was undergoing some changes in their policy when we started this conversation at the end of last year, and they've had some personnel changes. So at this point, we're waiting for a final AOK that this is how we'll proceed. Just though, to give you a broader sense of NFCYM's safe environment policy, we do require that all volunteers who are volunteering through, you know, for NCYC, that they are compliant either with their diocesan safe environment policy, and we do require documentation of such. If for some reason they aren't or can't become, you know, get cleared before NCYC, we do have our own policy for training, and we have a company that does background check, and we also have a code of conduct that is required. So all volunteers are cleared, all speakers are cleared, and you know, just want to give you that. Exhibitors is another area where we would like to move out of requiring that all exhibit personnel are cleared unless they are chaperoning young people. It's kind of outside of their scope of duties at NCYC. I mean, everyone should be keeping a watchful eye on others, but generally, you know, that's just, it's not, they're not there chaperoning young people. They're there to represent their organization. They're there to sell their product, and their interaction with participants, adult and youth, should really be limited to that role of being, you know, being a staff person in a booth. Kind of participation, if you use a walker, a wheelchair, I would say it's a lot of ground to cover, and they are 3 long days. So if you use a walker or a cane or something, or crutches, if somebody in your group falls, hurts themselves, or has surgery close to the event, you may want to consider renting a scooter for the 3 or 4 days that you'll be in Indianapolis. Your hotel would be a great resource for identifying a company from which to rent that. And if you aren't successful there, to please get in touch with us. I haven't been back in touch with the company we used in the past to know if they're still in business, quite honestly. So I can't give you directly a resource for doing that. It's not impossible, but can they bring their own lunch into the convention center? I will say this, our approach has been that you can bring personal food in your personal bag into the convention center and stadium. What cannot happen is I am bringing a box or a cooler or a stack of pizzas or whatever in for my entire group. You cannot call Jimmy John's, that's the example that used to always be used in Indianapolis. You can't call Jimmy John's and have them deliver 20 subs to the corner and then, you know, tuck them under and walk through. That violates the spirit of our license, which says that individuals can bring in personal food. Will there be food trucks? I cannot answer that at this time. That is a kind of fickle business. When can we receive content about general sessions and theme? I will ask the project team. I mean, they do have, now that we have locked in our speakers, I will ask if they are going to kind of individually theme each of the sessions or how they're planning to break it open more specifically. And we'll put that information onto our website kind of in broad terms and let you know. General sessions, I don't anticipate they will be bilingual, though no one, would keep anyone who is bilingual from speaking in Spanish during their session, but there is no plan for it to be bilingual within a general session. And then in terms of breakout sessions, as I said, we're still in the process. It was interesting last year. We did in 2022, because now we really, when we say last year with NCYC, we really mean last year. We used to mean like, oh, I really mean, 2 years ago, but now NCYC is annual. So in 2022, we did offer a couple of bilingual sessions, and my head is elsewhere, and I couldn't tell you how well they were attended, but I do know that the team is very aware of the need, and there is an expectation that the NCYC in Long Beach is not going to be, the Spanish-speaking NCYC, and the one in Indianapolis is the non-Spanish speaking. We are aware it's really just about where the team is headed, what speakers they're finding, etc. And I do see that there's a note that Darius, in fact, I do remember this now that I see this note. Thank you, Natalie. We are working on the option for translation of general sessions into Spanish. That's really how we handled it in Long Beach. Is we were blessed to be able to borrow the translation equipment from the Diocese of Orange. And then we had members who provided Spanish translation services. And then, adults, it was mainly adults, got headsets so they could follow along. And then also looking at that for breakout sessions. We will have ASL interpreters for general sessions. Specifically how we'll handle that for breakouts. I don't know. That we had a great plan, if you will, for 21 when we only had 5 sessions or 6 sessions. But I know that we will not have interpreters in each room. The way we've done it in the past is we would try and connect deaf participants with other deaf participants and the translators, and they would kind of make some, the translating team would go with them to whatever breakout session they chose. So I imagine that we would move forward with the same approach. There was a question about when will permission click links? They will not be links. We will send the link directly to, we won't be posting them. So NCYC will push them out, and we will send them, I think, beginning in September, as soon as we have people to send them to. So we need to be able to have names and email addresses in the system to be ordered to push those out. And then again, our hope would be that by the 30th of September, we would have, or like October 1st, we would have the preponderance of names and email addresses so that we could do a big push out through permission click on or about, and I do mean on or about because I don't know if that's a weekend right now, but on or about October 1st, that we would start to push that information out through permission click. Wants to know if it's possible for people to register from our diocese, but reserve and pay for hotels rooms individually. Has there ever been an incident at a hotel where the diocese was held liable? I am unaware, again, prayers, knock on wood, whatever will ward off this coming true. But no, I am not aware of any group ever having something happen at NCYC in a hotel for which the diocese was liable. I'm unaware. So in the last 20 years, that's never come to my attention. Could it have happened? I suppose, but nothing to, a level that NCYC was ever made aware of. If you're worried about damages or anything else to a room, I would encourage you to incorporate, the appropriate use of your hotel facilities in whatever kind of behavioral code of conduct you have for your group, whatever kind of permission slip you do for your group. just be aware that while NFCYM does use permission click for a liability form, and that would provide the diocese with some general release, it is not a permission form covering everything that you might need as a group leader. So you will still likely need something, a permission form, for example, that gives you the power to take a young person to the hospital or to authorize medical treatment again, hopefully the unlikely need that they would need some kind of intervention in transportation to and from Indianapolis or while in Indianapolis. If a bishop is attending with your or is attending NCYC, what's your delegation's responsibility versus, like what NFCYM will take care of? NFCYM will comp that bishop's participation, so they do not need to buy a ticket. We will offer them the ability to make a reservation within a specific block at the Marriott downtown. And that's kind of where, and I think we've attempted to assist them with some transportation to and from the airport, grouping bishops together and the like. But bishops are not required to stay in that block. We have had a number of bishops who have preferred to stay in the same hotel with their delegation. If that's the case, then all of those arrangements are the responsibility of the delegation. NFCY, the cost of overnight accommodations remains with the bishop or with the diocese. NFCYM does not cover that unless, the bishop is a keynote speaker, in which case we are probably covering their overnight accommodations. But other than that, all of the costs other than admission remain with the individual. So there's a question about, this is fascinating, that we saw the theme was not Eucharistic. We are absolutely Eucharistic. We are fully alive in the Eucharist. I don't fully understand but it is a bigger theme because we are not the Eucharistic Congress. We did not want to take away from that experience. We have had Eucharistic adoration at NCYC every year, I think, since 2003. It has become a cornerstone piece since 2009. We've had processions with the Blessed Sacrament as part of NCYC. So it's already incorporated into NCYC, but will we have anything specific to the Eucharistic revival? I don't think so. I mean, well, that's not true. I believe in breakout sessions, you might see some things that are more directly connected to the Eucharistic revival, but the Eucharist has always been a central part of the NCYC experience. And so that's really where the team came from, was wanting to acknowledge that the Eucharistic revival is a national event that will happen the following summer, that there are Eucharistic revival experiences happening in parishes and dioceses around the country, and that we will continue to focus on the reception of the Eucharist and reverence for the Eucharist as part of NCYC, but we didn't want to set ourselves up as the youth version of the Eucharistic revival. Previous year, we came from Canada and needed forms notarized. Is that still required? NFCYM does not require the notarization of forms because now they exist in permission click. But you may want to, you might want to have a conversation locally. I know that there were a couple of dioceses where it was their diocesan policy that if a group was leaving the state, I think it was, then the diocese required that permission forms and medical release forms be notarized. But that was a diocesan policy. It is not NFCYM's policy. Permission click meets the U.S. Digital Signature Act requirements or something. So while it's not notarized, it can be traced so that you know what electronic device filled out the form and that kind of thing. So we don't have any separate requirements for notification or for notarization. Will group leaders be able to see if participants have forms? I don't recall, I believe, so we've done it now 2 different ways. And we meet actually monthly with a representative from Permission Click. And I'm sorry if I called it member clicks, I meant Permission Click. We meet monthly with somebody from Permission Click, and we kind of talked about the pros and cons of setting it up so that group leaders can send it out versus NCYC can send it out. And I think we have also been working with progress and planning so that it should keep a tally of how many forms have been received. But Myra is the guru on that. And as I said, she's out today, unfortunately. And I didn't anticipate that question, so I didn't ask her the answer. Okay, what are you looking forward to do this year that is a new idea that excited you? Honestly, I am really excited by the breakout process. It's a little mundane for most folks, but it's the direct long time. We've spent a lot of time in the past, I think, thinking about cool session titles and descriptions, and then we kind of match them up with speakers who sometimes do a great job of all of those or hitting all of what was in the description, but sometimes it feels like a swing and a miss. I think this time when we focus on what in the end do to leave the session with, and then we allow speakers to do what they do well, which is address those topics, those themes, and answer those questions. I think that I'm excited to see what that will produce for NCYC. We are re-looking at how we're going to use space in the convention center, which again is a really boring thing probably for most people, but I'm excited because it's an opportunity for us not just to do it the way we've always done it, but once again to take a look and see if there's a way that we can better utilize the space, maybe shrink how far we're asking people to walk. And so we really have kind of gone back to looking at everything that we have under contract and thinking about what would the best place would be for some of those activities. And so we're looking at a new home for the chapel, and we're looking at a slightly revised home for the interactive exhibit hall. And we're looking at like a slightly different setup, but for the breakout session. So I'm really excited by that and what that could mean for us. And yes, there will be an interactive exhibit hall, trying to move away from thematic park. That team, will there be a service opportunity? I certainly hope so. We are in conversation with a service provider, but we have not come to an agreement. The thing about service projects is a lot of the ones that we've done in the past come with the tech. And while we absolutely want to serve, a $50,000 investment in one element of the interactive exhibit hall is hard. And so we have been we want to make sure that service and catechesis remain a part of the hall, but at the same time, we also need to be good stewards that we have. So we are in discussion with a group to do a hands-on or a particular type of service project. And we're working with a number of other local agencies on kind of what they need and how we might be able to meet those needs. How will substitutions be handled? They're handled similar to the way it was last year. If you log into your registration portal, which is where you purchased your tickets, and you click on participant details, once you add a name, and you can only do this once you've added names, I do believe there's an option for edit, so you can go back in and just change the name. I do believe that editing feature will get turned off on or about October 1st, and then I think there becomes a separate substitution button. But at least until October 1st, you could change that name on a daily basis and it wouldn't change anything. You would just be, changing the information in the system. Exhibitor booths will be available. We are, again, I'm working right now with the team to design the exhibit hall floor, and our hope is that by June 1st, we will have a confirmed fire marshal approved floor plan. And then once we have that and we can start to place sponsors, that's our hierarchy, quite honestly, is sponsors, members, and then we have open applications for those who want to purchase space. And that information, I do believe there is a site where you can sign up, get more information about exhibiting. So just make sure you add that or make sure your name is part of that distribution list. Downloadable information for the app. Again, that's another element of NCYC that I don't have to take care of. That's Ryan Bowles' headache. So I will talk what that would look like. We have not explored a buyout for Wi-Fi because, again, it comes with quite the price tag. And as expensive as you may think the NCYC ticket is, adding something like that, it would ratchet up those expenses. So we can continue to look at it. I will say that if I understand the facility correctly, in their food court areas, there's supposed to be free Wi-Fi, but I will talk with Ryan about the downloadable to the device bit, because I'm not a Luddite, but I don't fully understand what that means. How does bus parking work if we are staying within walking distance of the venue? So the way that would work is there's a lot, most likely your hotel will not have, if you're in a downtown hotel, it will not have bus parking. You can ask them, your hotel, for a recommendation, but if they don't send you to a group called Gate 10, that's another option. Gate 10 is on the south side of the stadium, and they do offer bus parking overnight, and you can usually arrange it in advance, in which case, your bus would drop you off at your hotel, would go over to Gate 10. It is, depending on what hotel you're in, it could be a hike for your bus driver to get back to the hotel, or you could catch an Uber or a cab or whatever. But they could leave the bus there. And then typically what we do is at the end of October, we'll send a note to or an email to all group leaders asking if you're using buses and whether or not you're going to use buses for daily transfer back and forth to the convention center and stadium, or whether you're only going to use them on, Saturday night after. And then we put you into our bus plan based on that. So we do have a number of groups who only interact with the bus plan on Saturday night. That's not a problem. If you need more passes than you originally requested, you go in and buy more. You can just use your credentials. You go back to the to that tab where you purchase your passes, and you can add additional passes. And then they'll just go into your overall number of passes. Thank you all for, I don't know how many of you are out there, but I think more than 60 registered for this. And I'm really grateful that you not only took the hour this afternoon to ask your questions, to listen to answers, but that you are taking on the responsibility to bring young people to NCYC. That accompaniment in the process of preparing for and participating in, and most importantly, going home and, really getting involved in your community, whatever, community that may be, is so important. And that's not what, I do. That role is entirely on you, and our staff. Everyone at the NFCYM offices are very grateful for all the work that you do at the most local level. So thank you very much. We look forward to seeing you in November, if not at some point before. And if you have more questions, you can always submit them at NCYC@nfcym.org. So thank you all very much. Take care.